Hey everyone. We are so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. Please smash that subscribe button and help our unveiled family reach our goal. Thanks to everyone who has already subscribed. We love you. Now to the video. I still remember the night because it didn't feel like a night at first. It felt like one of those blank stretches where nothing important is supposed to happen. I had just gotten off a late shift, shoes still damp from melted ice on the sidewalks, phone buzzing in my pocket with that dull boredom energy. I was half scrolling, half staring, not really expecting anything. Tinder had turned into a habit like chewing gum with no flavor. Then her profile popped up. Not flashy. No try-hard captions. Just a few blurry pics, a messy room in the background, and a bio that sounded like someone typing while distracted. I swiped without thinking, like muscle memory. The match came back fast. That alone should have been weird. I didn't think about it though. We talked for a bit. Nothing intense. Jokes that didn't land perfectly. Awkward gaps. It felt normal in that slightly off way that makes things feel more real. She said her roommate was out for the night and invited me over. I remember pausing at that line. Not because of danger. Just because it felt sudden. But sudden things had been my thing lately. I typed back yes and didn't overthink it. Her place was across town near the river where the buildings all looked like they used to be factories. The kind of area where half the lights never turn on and the air smells metallic. I parked under a flickering street lamp and checked my phone again. No weird messages. No red flags. I walked up the stairs, concrete steps with chipped paint, and knocked. Inside was warmer than I expected. Not cozy warm, more like the heat had been cranked too high and forgotten. The apartment was small but cluttered. Shoes by the door that didn't look like they belonged to one person. Coats stacked on a chair. I noticed it but didn't say anything. She smiled and waved me in. The place smelled like candles mixed with something sour underneath. We sat on a couch that sagged in the middle. The TV was on but muted. I kept thinking about how quiet it was. Not peaceful quiet. The kind where every sound feels louder than it should. I could hear pipes ticking. Cars passing outside. My own breathing when I leaned back. She kept glancing at her phone, then setting it face down, then flipping it back over. I figured she was nervous. I probably was too. Time moved weird. I don't know how long we talked. It felt stretched out, like the night was bending. At one point she got up and went into the kitchen. I heard drawers opening and closing, slower than necessary. I stayed on the couch and scrolled my phone to kill the silence. That's when I noticed I had a few missed notifications. Not messages. Alerts. One from my email. One from Tinder saying my account had been updated from a new device. I remember frowning at that. I hadn't touched my settings in months. Before I could think about it more, the front door exploded inward. Not like a gentle opening or even a hard push. It was violent. Wood cracking, the lock giving up all at once. The sound filled the entire apartment and slammed into my chest. 3 figures rushed in fast and loud, boots pounding, hands already reaching for their belts. Everything went chaotic in a second. My brain couldn't keep up. She screamed and pointed at me. Her whole body twisted toward them, fingers shaking, face pulled tight like she had been holding something in for hours. I didn't hear words. I didn't need to. The accusation was clear without sound. The room shifted instantly. I wasn't a guest anymore. I wasn't even a person. I was something found. Hands grabbed my arms and yanked me up. My phone slipped from my lap and skidded across the floor. My heart was racing so hard it felt like it was trying to escape my ribs. I kept looking at her, waiting for confusion, for her to backtrack, for something. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She just stood there frozen, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold. They pushed me against the wall and started asking things. I could see their mouths moving but my ears were ringing. The only thing that cut through was when one of them held up a phone. My phone. The screen was cracked now. He showed me something on it. My Tinder profile. My pictures. My bio. But the messages were different. Conversations I had never had. Plans I had never made. There were screenshots of a report filed earlier that night. My name. My age. My photos. Listed as missing. Apparently her husband had filed it. Used my profile to claim I had disappeared after coming to meet his wife. Said I was unstable. Said there were signs I might hurt someone or myself. He had screenshots ready. Dates lined up. Times matched. Looked real. Too real. I kept trying to understand how someone could do that so fast. How he got my info. How he knew where I was. Then it clicked. She had asked for my number early on. Said Tinder messages were glitchy. I had given it without thinking. She had sent me the address. She had access to my profile while I was sitting 10 feet away from her. They sat me down again, but this time in a chair that felt smaller than before. One of them stayed between me and the door. Another walked through the apartment, opening rooms, checking closets. When he came back, he nodded at the others like something had been confirmed. I noticed a picture frame on a shelf that I hadn't seen before. Her and a guy standing by the river, arms around each other. Wedding rings catching the light. She finally spoke then, but not to me. She told them she had been scared for weeks. That I wouldn't stop messaging. That I showed up uninvited. That she didn't know what I might do. She cried without tears. Her hands shook on cue. It was like watching someone play a role they had rehearsed alone too many times. They checked my ID. Checked my phone again. Scrolled through my apps. One of them frowned and asked about the updated login. I told them I didn't do it. My voice sounded thin even to me. Like I was already halfway erased. After a while, things slowed. The energy shifted from urgent to suspicious. They stepped into the hallway to talk. I sat there staring at the floor. I noticed stains on the carpet. Dark ones that looked old. I noticed the door hanging crooked on its hinges, splintered around the lock. I wondered how many times it had been broken like that. Eventually they came back. The missing person report didn't hold up under closer look. Timestamps were off. IP addresses didn't match. The husband had filed similar reports before under different names. Apparently I wasn't the first. They uncuffed me and handed back my phone. The screen was spiderweb now. I asked if I could leave. They nodded. She didn't look at me as I walked past her. I didn't say anything. There wasn't anything to say. I stepped over the broken door and into the hallway. The cold air hit my face like a reset I didn't deserve. I walked down the stairs slowly, legs still shaking. Outside, the street lamp buzzed overhead. My car sat where I left it, untouched. I got in and locked the doors even though I knew it wouldn't help. I sat there for a long time, staring at my reflection in the windshield. I checked my phone again. My Tinder account was gone. Deleted. Wiped clean. I drove home along the river, lights reflecting off the water like broken lines. When I got back to my place, I didn't turn on any lights. I sat on my couch and listened to the building settle around me. My phone buzzed once. An email confirmation about an account change from earlier that night. I read it twice to make sure it was real. Nothing else happened after that. No follow-ups. No apologies. No charges. Just a normal night that ended in a way that didn't feel real. I still think about how easily it all snapped into place. How fast a stranger can rewrite you. How close I came to being someone else entirely.
The night started with that floaty feeling like I was finally getting something right for once. I remember walking to the restaurant with my phone in my hand, screen lighting up my face, checking the address again even though I already knew it. It was one of those places people post about like it means something about them. Brick walls, dim lights, menus that look simple but take forever to decide. I had changed outfits twice before leaving and still felt underdressed somehow. My stomach was doing that annoying flip thing, not fear exactly, just hope mixed with nerves. We had matched a week earlier and everything felt weirdly easy. Not intense, not dry, just steady. He didn't push for anything fast. He asked about my day in a way that felt real. Remembered stuff I mentioned without turning it into a joke. When he suggested dinner instead of drinks, I remember thinking maybe this one wasn't going to be another story I had to laugh about later. I hate that I even thought that. He was already there when I walked in, sitting at a booth near the back. The kind of spot that feels private even when the place is full. He stood up when he saw me and smiled like this was something he had been looking forward to all day. I remember noticing his phone on the table face down, case scratched, screen protector peeling at the corner. It felt normal. Everything felt normal. The date was good. Not movie perfect, but good in that grounded way. Food came fast. We talked about work, family, dumb stuff we used to be into as kids. He laughed with his whole face, not just his mouth. I kept catching myself thinking about how this would sound if I told my friends. Like I wouldn't have to add a but at the end. Halfway through the meal, he went to the bathroom. I stayed at the table scrolling, pretending not to people watch. That's when the TV on the wall behind me changed screens. It had been playing some sports thing on mute all night. Suddenly it flickered and went black for a second. Then it lit up again with something that wasn't the game. I didn't even realize what I was looking at first. It was a phone screen. A phone screen way too big, stretched across the TV like it belonged there. Notifications stacked on top of each other. Message previews. Names I didn't recognize. Words that made my stomach drop in a slow, heavy way. Not graphic, but clear enough. Promises, timing, compliments that were way too personal to be harmless. I froze. The restaurant noise faded out like someone had turned a knob down. I could hear my heart in my ears. People around us started murmuring, chairs shifting, heads turning. I didn't look back at the screen right away. I think part of me was hoping it would fix itself if I ignored it. Then I saw my own name in one of the threads. Not my full name, just the nickname I had used on Tinder. The same one I never use anywhere else. It was right there, blown up bigger than my face on that TV. Below it were messages I recognized. Ones he had sent me earlier that week, now framed in a way that made them look cheap and copied. Another thread popped up labeled girlfriend. Another labeled wife work phone. My hands started to shake on the table. I pushed them under my legs to hide it. I felt stupid for caring what anyone thought when my entire reality had just cracked open. He came back from the bathroom right then. I saw his face change before he even reached the table. His steps slowed. His eyes went wide, then darted around the room like he was looking for an exit that wasn't there. The screen stayed on. More messages rolled in. It was like the phone was trying to finish the job. The server rushed over to the wall, fumbling with the remote. It took way too long. Every second felt like it was stretching out on purpose just to hurt more. Finally the TV went dark again, then switched back to the game like nothing had happened. Nothing felt normal after that. My chest was tight. My throat burned. I couldn't even look at him. He sat down slowly, hands hovering like he didn't know what to do with them. I stared at the table, at the little candle flickering between us, at the grease stain near my plate that I hadn't noticed before. I didn't need him to explain. The screen had already done that better than words ever could. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it. I already knew it was him, probably trying to say something that wouldn't matter. Before I could even process what I was going to do next, the front door of the restaurant opened and this woman walked in. She looked tired in a way that felt familiar. Hair pulled back too tight, jacket half-zipped, eyes scanning the room like she was bracing for something. She stopped when she saw our table. Her gaze locked onto him first, then slid to me. The look on her face shifted fast. Confusion, then recognition. My stomach dropped even harder. I knew that look. It was the same one I had made when the screen showed my name. She walked over slowly, like each step weighed something. I didn't hear what she said. I didn't need to. Her eyes didn't leave my face. I realized then that she wasn't just his wife. She had matched with me too. Different pictures. Different name. Same face. Same smile. I remembered now. A quick chat weeks ago that went nowhere. I had unmatched without thinking. The room felt too small all of a sudden. Like the walls were leaning in. People were staring openly now. No one cared about the game anymore. The server hovered nearby pretending to wipe a table that was already clean. My phone buzzed again. This time I checked it. A message request from a number I didn't recognize. A profile picture I recognized instantly. It was her. The same woman standing right there. The message preview was just my name. I stood up. My legs felt weak, but they held. I grabbed my jacket and my bag. The check was still on the table. $120 printed at the bottom. I didn't care who paid it. I didn't look at him. I didn't look at her again either. I just walked past them, past the bar, past the door, out into the cold air. Outside, the night felt louder than before. Cars passing, people laughing down the street, music spilling out of another place nearby. I stood on the sidewalk trying to breathe like nothing had happened. My hands were shaking again. I shoved them into my pockets and started walking. My phone kept buzzing. Messages stacking up. I didn't open any of them. I knew whatever was in there would only make it worse. I needed distance more than answers. When I got home, my life felt different. Smaller. Quieter. I kicked off my shoes and sat on the floor with my back against the couch. I stared at the wall for a long time. I read the Tinder messages from earlier that week again, noticing all the little things I missed. The timing gaps. The vague replies. The way he never answered certain questions. I didn't cry right away. I felt empty first. Like something had been scooped out of me and left a hollow echo. Eventually the tears came, but they felt pointless. Messy. Not dramatic, just tired. I deleted the app that night. Not in a big moment, just a quick swipe and done. My phone felt lighter without it. Quieter. I still think about that screen sometimes. How technology decided to tell the truth in the worst possible way. How many other people were tied into that mess without knowing it? How close I was to believing something that wasn't real.
The first thing that threw me off wasn't the date itself. It was the laugh. It started before I even sat down, like she was already mid-joke with someone else and I just walked into it. Loud, sharp, way too much for a normal hello. People at nearby tables turned their heads for a second, then went back to pretending they didn't notice. I told myself some people are just like that. Nervous energy. Excitement. Whatever. I didn't want to judge 5 minutes in. We met at this late-night dessert place that also sold coffee and random snacks. Bright lights, sticky tables, chairs that never stop wobbling. It wasn't fancy, just somewhere open past midnight where no one cares if you sit too long. I picked it because it felt safe and low pressure. I didn't expect anything weird to happen there of all places. She laughed at everything. Not just jokes. Comments. Pauses. The sound of a spoon hitting a plate. Every sentence I said got the same reaction, like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. It wasn't fake exactly, just unfiltered. I kept losing my train of thought because the laugh would cut in halfway through what I was saying. People kept glancing over. I started talking quieter without realizing it. I noticed little things while we sat there. She kept bouncing her leg under the table so hard my cup shook. She drank her iced coffee way too fast, then ordered another one even though she was already jittery. Her phone buzzed constantly, but she ignored it, flipping it face down and pushing it closer to the edge of the table like she didn't want to see it. She told me she was bad at first dates. Said it in a casual way like it was a joke, but there was something tight behind it. I nodded and said same, even though my dates were usually just boring, not chaotic. I was still trying to convince myself this was just awkward and not a mistake. About 40 minutes in, something shifted. It was subtle at first. Her laugh cut off mid-burst. Not faded out. Just stopped. She froze in place like someone had paused her. Her face drained of color so fast it was actually scary. Her eyes went unfocused, staring at nothing over my shoulder. I leaned forward without thinking, trying to figure out if she was about to faint or throw up or something. Then I smelled it. It wasn't immediate. It crept in slowly, heavy and wrong, mixing with the sugar and coffee smells of the place. My brain tried to reject it at first, like it didn't want to accept what was happening. Then her posture changed. Shoulders stiff. Hands clenched. She shifted in her seat like she was trying to escape her own body. Everything after that happened fast and slow at the same time. She stood up so suddenly her chair scraped loudly across the floor. People looked over again, more openly this time. She said something under her breath that I couldn't hear, then pointed at me in a wild, panicked way. Her face twisted like she was angry, embarrassed, desperate all at once. Before I could even react, she turned and bolted for the door. Not a calm walk. A full run. She knocked into a table on the way out, spilling a drink onto the floor. No apology. No looking back. Just gone. I sat there stunned, still processing the smell, the looks from everyone around me, the way the moment had just imploded. Someone at the counter whispered something to their friend. Another person laughed quietly like they thought it was part of a joke. I felt heat crawl up my neck. I wanted to disappear. Then I noticed her purse on the chair. Her phone was half sticking out, screen lit up. The Tinder app was open. I didn't mean to look at first. I was just staring at it like it was proof that the last hour had actually happened. The smell wasn't fading. The chair she had been sitting in was ruined. Staff started moving toward our table, whispering to each other with those tight, polite faces. I stood up, holding my hands out like I didn't know what to do with them. One of the workers asked if I knew her. I nodded because lying felt worse. They asked if she was coming back. I knew she wasn't. I could feel it. Someone else brought cleaning supplies over and started working on the floor without looking at me. I grabbed the purse. I don't know why. Instinct maybe. I couldn't just leave it there. It felt wrong. Heavy. Like it carried whatever had just happened inside it. I picked up the phone too, meaning to close the app, but my thumb slipped. That's when I saw the messages. There were dozens. Threads stacked on top of each other. Different names. Similar jokes. Same tone. And over again the same nickname attached to her account. The third date accident girl. All lowercase. Like it had been said so many times it didn't need emphasis. My stomach dropped harder than it had all night. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't some freak accident. People were warning each other. Joking about it. There were messages from days ago, from earlier that same night even. One guy said he hoped it wouldn't happen again. Another said he wasn't mad, just confused. One message said this was why he always picked outdoor dates. My hands started shaking. I locked the phone without reading anymore. It felt like I had crossed some line just by seeing that much. Like I wasn't supposed to know. I went up to the counter and told them she left her things. They didn't want to touch the purse. I don't blame them. They told me I could leave it there or take it. I didn't want to be connected to it anymore. I set it down and backed away. I walked out into the night air feeling like I had just escaped something sticky and unreal. I stood on the sidewalk for a minute trying to breathe. The smell felt stuck in my nose even though it wasn't. My phone buzzed with a notification. Tinder. She had unmatched me. I laughed once out loud because of course she had. I walked home instead of calling a ride. I needed the movement. My brain kept replaying the moment she froze. The look on her face. The way panic took over completely. It wasn't funny anymore. It was just sad and unsettling. When I got back to my live, I threw my clothes straight into the washer and showered longer than usual. The hot water helped a little. I sat on my bed after, wrapped in a towel, staring at my phone. Part of me wanted to block her. Part of me wanted to ask if she was okay. I didn't either. I opened Tinder and stared at my matches list for a while. Every profile felt fake after that. Like I was scrolling through potential disasters instead of people. Later that night, I got a message from an unknown number. No name. Just a single line saying sorry you had to see that. I didn't respond. I deleted the message and blocked the number. The next day, I kept expecting it to feel funny in hindsight. Like a story I'd tell at parties. It didn't. It just felt uncomfortable and heavy, like I had stumbled into someone else's loop and barely got out. I still think about that laugh sometimes. How it filled the room until it didn't. How quickly everything flipped. How an app can turn real people into warnings and jokes without anyone stopping it.
I didn't even want to go on the date at first. I remember staring at his message on my phone while brushing my teeth, foam dripping down my chin, rereading it like maybe I misunderstood. He wanted to meet right near a police station. Not inside, not at some busy plaza nearby, but at a cafe literally across the street from it. He said it was for safety and added a laughing emoji like that made it normal. I almost unmatched right there. Something about it felt off, like trying too hard to prove he wasn't dangerous. But then I talked myself out of it. I always do that. I told myself it was actually smart. Public place. Cops nearby. Well-lit area. The kind of logic you use when you're tired of canceling plans and explaining to your friends why you're still single. I said yes before my brain could finish arguing with itself. The cafe was one of those bland chain places that looks the same no matter what city you're in. Big windows, fake plants, menus taped to the counter. Across the street, the police station sat heavy and gray, always busy, lights flickering even in the daytime. I picked a table by the window so I could see outside without turning my head. I didn't know why I wanted that. I just did. He was already there when I walked in. Sitting straight, hands folded, like he was waiting for an interview. He smiled when he saw me, but it didn't reach his eyes. His phone was placed carefully next to his cup, screen down, perfectly aligned with the table edge. I noticed stupid details like that when I was nervous. The first 10 minutes were fine. Not great, not terrible. He talked a lot about routines. His schedule. How he liked structure. How random things stressed him out. I nodded and sipped my drink and tried to relax my shoulders. Every now and then, his eyes would flick to the window, toward the station, then back to me. I figured he was just anxious like I was. Then an officer walked in. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Cops come into places like that all the time. He ordered something at the counter and waited, scanning the room like it was muscle memory. When his eyes landed on our table, something changed. He didn't look surprised. He looked focused. He walked over slowly. Not rushed. Not casual either. Just direct. My date stiffened beside me. His legs stopped bouncing. His hands clenched around his cup so hard his knuckles went pale. The officer said his name. Didn't ask. Said it like it was a fact. Then asked him why he was sitting there when he wasn't supposed to be within a certain distance. I didn't understand at first. My brain lagged behind the words, trying to catch up. Restraining order. The officer said it calmly, like this wasn't the first time. Said it applied to specific areas, including this block. Including this cafe. Said he had been warned before. My date tried to explain something, his voice low and tight, but the officer cut him off without raising his own voice at all. Then the officer turned to me. He asked if I was the new girl from Tinder. I swear the whole room went silent in my head. I could still see people moving, hear the hum of the machines, but none of it registered. I just stared at him, my mouth slightly open, feeling like I had stepped into someone else's unfinished story. I nodded because my body moved before my brain could stop it. The officer sighed. Not annoyed. Tired. Like this was a pattern he hated repeating. He asked how long I'd been talking to him. Asked if I knew about the order. Asked if he had told me why he wasn't supposed to be here. I shook my head to all of it. My date didn't look at me. He stared straight ahead, jaw tight, eyes glossy. He kept insisting there was a misunderstanding. That he picked this place because it was safe. Because it made him feel protected. The officer reminded him that protection went both ways. People were staring now. Not subtle glances. Full-on watching. Phones half lifted like they were debating whether to record. I wanted to crawl under the table. I felt stupid, exposed, like everyone could see how easily I had walked into this. The officer asked me to stand up and move away from the table. My legs felt like rubber, but I did it. He positioned himself between us without even thinking about it. Another officer came in then, having been called in quietly. They spoke to each other in low voices that felt louder than shouting. I learned more in those next few minutes than I ever wanted to know. The restraining order wasn't old. It involved another woman. Someone he had met online. Someone who worked nearby. Someone who had asked him to stop contacting her and then had to make it official when he didn't. He had a habit of finding new matches in areas he wasn't supposed to be near. Using public places as shields. Using safety as an excuse. The officer asked if he had shown me his real name. His real number. If he had asked for personal info yet. My stomach dropped as I realized how close he had already gotten. How much ID shared without thinking. They told him to leave. Not politely. Not aggressively. Just firmly. Told him what would happen if he didn't. He finally stood up, movements stiff, eyes darting. As he walked past me, he didn't apologize. Didn't look embarrassed. He looked angry. Not at himself. At the situation. Once he was gone, the officer stayed with me for a bit. Asked if I was okay. Offered to walk me to my car. I said I just needed a minute. I sat back down at the table alone, staring at the empty chair across from me like it might move on its own. My drink had gone untouched for a while. The ice had melted. I didn't finish it. One of the officers explained that he had been flagged before. That the station nearby made it easier to keep an eye on him. That he probably suggested meeting there on purpose. The idea of that made my skin crawl. The thought that safety had been used as bait. When they finally left, the cafe felt wrong. Like the air had shifted. I grabbed my bag and walked out, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Crossing the street toward the station felt surreal. I stopped on the sidewalk and just stood there, breathing, watching the doors open and close. My phone buzzed. A notification from Tinder. He had unmatched me. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. I walked home instead of driving. I needed the time. Every step felt like it was shaking something loose in my head. I replayed every message. Every line. Every emoji. The way he had insisted on that location. The way I had convinced myself it was a green flag. When I got back to my live, I locked the door and leaned against it for a long time. I didn't turn on the lights. I just stood there, listening to my own breathing, feeling the adrenaline drain out of me slowly. Later that night, I read back through our chat one last time before deleting it. The signs were there. Not obvious. But there. Little comments about boundaries. Jokes that weren't really jokes. Things I brushed off because I wanted the date to be normal. Nothing dramatic happened after that. No follow-ups. No messages. Just silence. But every time I pass that cafe now, I feel my chest tighten a little. Every time someone suggests a place for safety, my brain pauses. The table across from the badge is still there. People still sit at it. They have no idea.
I knew something was off before I even left my live, but I couldn't pin it to anything specific. It was just that background hum of doubt that sits behind your thoughts when you're about to do something you can't undo. My phone buzzed with her address while I was tying my shoes, and I remember staring at the screen longer than usual, like maybe it would change if I waited. She had invited me to a house party last minute, said it was low-key, said her friends wanted to meet me. That alone should have made me pause. But I didn't want to be the guy who always bailed. We had only been talking for a few days. Nothing deep. Jokes, memes, late replies. She had this way of typing like she was always half laughing. Lots of short messages, lots of enthusiasm. She didn't mention a boyfriend. Didn't mention anything serious. Just said she liked chaos and parties and people who didn't overthink stuff. I guess that was me that night. The house was in a quiet neighborhood where every place looks the same. 2-story homes, trimmed lawns, warm lights glowing through windows. I parked a block away because the street was packed with cars. Music thumped faintly through the night air. I could already hear laughter spilling out when I got closer. As soon as I stepped inside, I realized this wasn't some random get-together. The place was full. Not college party full, but adult full. People holding drinks, clustered in groups, dressed nicer than I expected. There were decorations too. Not balloons everywhere, but intentional stuff. Candles, flowers, framed photos on tables that definitely hadn't been there permanently. She found me near the door and wrapped me in a quick hug like we had known each other longer than we had. She introduced me to people whose names I immediately forgot. Everyone smiled, but there was this edge to it, like they were trying to place me. I kept getting looks that lingered a second too long. I noticed a big banner hanging in the back of the living room. I couldn't see the full thing from where I was standing, but I caught part of a word that made my stomach tighten. Engaged. I laughed it off internally, telling myself it was probably for someone else, maybe a roommate or friend. She disappeared for a minute to grab drinks, leaving me standing there alone. That's when I really started to notice the photos. Her in almost all of them. Her with the same guy. Vacations, holidays, goofy selfies, professional-looking shots that screamed long-term relationship. My chest felt hollow. I felt like I had walked into the wrong movie halfway through. Someone clinked a glass somewhere. The music dipped. Attention shifted toward the center of the room. She reappeared beside a tall guy with a wide smile and confident posture. She slipped her hand into his like it was muscle memory. My brain stalled. The word engagement finally landed fully. This wasn't just any party. It was hers. I don't remember much of what was said during the little speech moment. My ears were buzzing. I remember the way she leaned into him. The way people cheered. The way my face felt hot even though no one was looking at me directly. I took a step back, trying to make myself smaller, trying to disappear into the crowd. That's when his eyes landed on me. His smile dropped instantly. Not confusion. Recognition. His body stiffened. His jaw clenched. The room seemed to tilt. He pointed at me, arm rigid, like he'd rehearsed this moment in his head before. His voice cut through everything, loud and sharp, accusing me of being the Tinder guy from the bathroom cameras. Everything stopped. People turned. Whispers spread like ripples. I felt the blood drain from my face so fast I thought I might pass out. My heart slammed against my ribs. I had no idea what he was talking about, but the way he said it told me it wasn't a joke. She froze beside him. Didn't look at me. Didn't look at anyone. Just stared straight ahead like she was bracing for impact. He kept going, words tumbling out about recognizing my face, about seeing me on footage, about how he knew I didn't belong there. I wanted to speak, to defend myself, but nothing came out. My throat felt locked. Bathroom cameras. The phrase echoed in my head like it didn't belong in the real world. I had never seen any cameras. Never noticed anything weird. But then memories started surfacing. Her insisting I come over to her place late at night before. Her always disappearing into the bathroom with her phone. The way she angled it sometimes like she was checking something behind me. People were staring openly now. Some looked confused. Others looked angry. A few looked sick. He pulled out his phone and showed people something. I didn't see the screen, but the reaction was enough. Gasps. Hands flying to mouths. Someone swore under their breath. I felt like I was shrinking. Like the walls were closing in. My name was being said by people I had never met. Tinder. Bathroom. Cameras. The words twisted together into something ugly and unreal. I finally pushed my way toward the door. No one stopped me. A few people moved aside quickly like they didn't want to touch whatever mess I was part of. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Outside, the air hit me hard. Cold and sharp. I stood on the lawn for a second, bent over, hands on my knees, trying not to throw up. Music resumed inside like nothing had happened. Laughter crept back in, quieter now, strained. I walked fast down the street, not caring where I was going. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it. I didn't want to see her name. Didn't want to see anything. Once I was far enough away, I stopped and leaned against a tree. My legs were shaking. My brain kept replaying his face when he recognized me. The certainty. The anger. The way he had said bathroom cameras like it explained everything. Later that night, when I finally got back to my live, I opened Tinder with shaky hands. Her profile was gone. Unmatched. Erased. Like she had never existed. I searched my messages. Nothing. No explanation. No apology. Just silence. I couldn't sleep. Every sound in my place felt louder. I checked my bathroom for anything out of place. Vents, corners, mirrors. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Days later, I got a message from an unknown account. No photo. No name. It said I wasn't the only one. That there were others. That it had been going on longer than anyone knew. I didn't respond. I blocked it and deleted the app again. I still think about that party sometimes. About how easily I walked into a life that wasn't mine. How close I got to something I didn't understand until it was too late. I think about how many faces he recognized. How many names he had learned the hard way. That house still stands in that quiet neighborhood. Lights still turn on at night. People still celebrate things inside. But every time I pass streets like that now, I keep walking.
I knew it was going to be a weird night the second I sat down. Not bad weird, not yet, just that off-balance feeling like when you're walking and miss a step you thought was there. The restaurant was one of those places that pretends to be classy but isn't really. Exposed brick, tiny tables, candles that smell like nothing. The kind of spot people pick because it looks good in photos, not because the food is memorable. I got there early and kept checking the door, half excited, half already tired. We had matched that afternoon. Fast replies. Way too charming in that smooth, practiced way. He suggested wine and dinner and sent the address like he had it copied already. I remember noticing how specific his timing was. Meet at exactly 7:10. Not around then. Not whenever. It felt oddly controlled, but I brushed it off. He showed up right on time. Smiled big. Hugged a little too long. Sat down and immediately started talking like he was trying to outrun silence. Job stories that didn't quite add up. Little contradictions that slid by if you didn't pay attention. I paid attention though. I always do. I just didn't say anything. We ordered wine. Same bottle. He watched the server pour like it mattered a lot. When the glasses hit the table, he picked his up and stared at it for a second. I thought maybe he was nervous. Maybe first dates just hit him harder. He took one sip. That's it. Not a gulp. Not even a full mouthful. Just one sip. He stood up so fast his chair tipped backward. I barely had time to react before he leaned forward and everything came out. Not a little mess. Not something you could pretend didn't happen. It was violent and loud and sudden. It splashed onto the floor and all over the couple at the table next to us. People screamed. Someone jumped back. A glass shattered. I froze. My brain couldn't catch up. My body felt stuck to the chair. The smell hit immediately and made my eyes water. The couple next to us stood up yelling, covered, shocked, angry. The whole room erupted into chaos in seconds. And he just stood there. He didn't panic. Didn't apologize. Didn't look embarrassed. He wiped his mouth with a napkin slowly, like this was an inconvenience, not a disaster. His face was calm in a way that made my skin crawl. Then he explained, casually, that this always happens when he lies. No rush. No shame. Like he was explaining a fun fact about himself. I didn't know what to do with that information. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. People were staring at me like I was part of it. Like I was responsible somehow. Staff rushed over. The couple was yelling. Chairs scraped. Someone asked if he was okay. Someone else asked if he was drunk. He shook his head and stayed weirdly composed. Like this was all expected. Then his phone buzzed. He looked down at it and smiled. Actually smiled. He picked it up and glanced at the screen. I saw the Tinder notification light up. Another date. Arriving in 2 minutes. The way he looked at the time made my stomach twist. Like this wasn't a mistake. Like this was part of a schedule. Everything clicked at once. The exact timing. The rushed charm. The way his stories didn't line up. The calm. The lie he couldn't physically keep down. I stood up so fast my chair almost fell too. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I grabbed my bag and stepped around the mess on the floor, heart racing, breath shallow. Someone tried to stop me to ask questions. I shook my head and kept moving. Outside, the night air felt unreal. Too quiet after the chaos. My ears were ringing. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I walked a few steps away from the door and leaned against the wall, trying not to throw up myself. Through the window, I could still see him. Still standing there. Still calm. Talking to staff like this was just another inconvenience on his night plan. Then I saw her. A girl walked up to the host stand, phone in hand, looking around nervously. She checked her screen, then glanced toward his table. Her face lit up for half a second before confusion took over. She stepped closer. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I walked fast. Then faster. I didn't care where I was going as long as it was away. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it. I already knew. When I finally slowed down, I was several blocks away, standing under a streetlight that flickered like it was tired. I sat down on the curb and tried to breathe. My chest felt tight. My thoughts were racing in circles. I kept replaying his calm voice in my head. The way he said it always happens when he lies. Not joking. Not dramatic. Just stating it like a rule of physics. Like gravity. What had he lied about to me in those first 10 minutes? His job. His name. His age. His intentions. Maybe all of it. Maybe none of it mattered. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. A message from Tinder. He had unmatched me. Clean and quick. I laughed once, quietly, because of course he had. When I got back to my live later that night, I showered longer than usual. I could still smell the restaurant on my clothes even after I took them off. I sat on my bed in a towel and stared at the wall, letting the adrenaline drain out slowly. I didn't tell anyone what happened right away. It sounded fake when I tried to explain it in my head. Like something you'd exaggerate for attention. But I knew what I saw. I knew how real it felt standing there while everything fell apart in public. A few days later, curiosity got the better of me. I reinstalled Tinder just to see. His profile was still there. New pictures. Same smile. Different bio. Same energy. Like nothing had happened. I blocked him immediately and deleted the app again. My phone felt quieter after that. Safer somehow. Sometimes I think about the couple he hit. About the girl who walked in 2 minutes later. About how many times this had already happened. How many times it would happen again. I still like wine. I still go on dates. But every time someone takes that first sip and pauses too long, my stomach tightens just a little.
It started with that quiet kind of excitement that only happens when you think you're finally safe for the night. Not safe like nothing bad ever happens, but safe like you've locked the door, turned your phone face down, and let yourself stop watching the clock. I remember thinking how normal everything felt, which is always the worst thought to have in hindsight. Normal never lasts long in these stories. We had matched a few days earlier and the energy was fast but not weird. Flirty without being pushy. She lived close by and suggested I come over instead of going out. I hesitated for maybe 10 seconds before saying yes. I told myself I had been on enough first dates to trust my gut. My gut apparently needed glasses. Her place was a small apartment above a closed dry cleaner. The kind of building that looks forgotten during the day and suspicious at night. The stairwell smelled like old soap and dust. When she opened the door, she smiled like she was relieved I was real. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Inside was dim but cozy. String lights, a couch that had seen better days, shoes kicked off in a pile by the door. Nothing screamed danger. If anything, it felt like a place designed to lower your guard. Music playing softly. Windows covered. The city noise muted. We talked for a bit. Sat close. Things moved naturally like they always do when you're both pretending you aren't nervous. Time slipped. At some point, the talking stopped and the closeness took over. My phone buzzed once and I ignored it. I didn't want to break the moment. That's when the knock happened. Not a gentle tap. Not a neighbor mistake. Firm and deliberate. The kind of knock that doesn't ask if you're home, it tells you it knows you are. She froze instantly. Not startled. Not confused. Just frozen. Her hand tightened against my arm and she leaned in close, breath shallow. She told me not to speak, barely moving her mouth. No explanation. Just urgency. My heart started pounding. I pulled back slightly, trying to understand what was happening. The knock came again, louder, followed by voices outside the door. Calm but serious. My stomach dropped. She moved fast after that. Grabbed a hoodie from the chair and threw it on, smoothing her hair like she was switching roles. She whispered instructions without really explaining anything. Stay quiet. Follow her lead. Don't volunteer anything. Every word made it worse. She opened the door just enough to speak through it. I couldn't hear what was said clearly, but I could tell from her tone that she had done this before. Too calm. Too controlled. Like muscle memory. The door opened fully and 2 officers stepped inside. The room felt smaller instantly. The lights too dim. The air too thick. They scanned the place with their eyes, taking in everything in seconds. One of them looked at me, then back at her. They asked what was going on. Who I was. How long I had been there. She answered smoothly, like this was a rehearsed story. She said we had been together all evening. That I showed up right after dinner time. That nothing unusual had happened. My brain was screaming. I nodded along because I didn't know what else to do. I felt like I was standing on thin ice, afraid that any wrong movement would crack it. They asked about earlier that night. About a break-in a few blocks away. About a suspect description. About timelines. I felt sweat gather at the back of my neck. None of this made sense to me yet, but it clearly made sense to her. After a few more questions, they left. No cuffs. No raised voices. Just a warning to call if anything strange happened. The door closed behind them with a soft click that sounded way too final. I turned to her immediately, words spilling out before I could stop them, but she cut me off with a look. Not angry. Not apologetic. Just tired. She sat down on the couch and rubbed her face with both hands like the night had taken something out of her. That's when she told me the truth. Not all at once. In pieces. Like she was deciding how much I deserved to know. She had been using Tinder dates as alibis. Rotating them. Spacing them out. Always having someone over during certain windows of time so she could say she wasn't alone. Wasn't out. Wasn't involved. Sometimes it was harmless. Sometimes it wasn't. Tonight just happened to be bad timing. Apparently there had been a burglary nearby. Someone matching her build had been seen earlier. She had been questioned before. Not charged. Just watched. Having people over made her look less suspicious. Witnesses without knowing they were witnesses. My chest felt tight. I realized how carefully everything had been arranged. The timing. The invite. The covered windows. The way she reacted instantly when the knock came. This wasn't panic. It was procedure. I asked why me. She shrugged like it didn't matter. She said I was available. Nearby. Normal enough. The words stung more than I expected. I stood up slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. I told her I was leaving. She didn't stop me. Didn't apologize. Just nodded like she had expected it. At the door I paused. My legs felt weak. I asked if I was in trouble. She said probably not. Probably wasn't reassuring. I walked down the stairs with my heart still racing. Every sound made me jump. When I stepped outside, the street felt too quiet. The police car was gone. The night had gone back to pretending nothing happened. I walked home instead of calling a ride. I needed the time. Needed to feel like I was moving away from something instead of just being dropped back into my live with it following me. When I got home, I checked my phone. I had a missed notification from Tinder earlier that night. She had updated her profile location while I was sitting on her couch. I stared at that for a long time. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the knock again. Felt her hand tighten on my arm. Remembered the way she switched personalities like flipping a light. The next morning, her profile was gone. Unmatched. Erased. Like she had never existed. I wondered how many others had been there before me. How many would come after? How many had unknowingly helped her stay one step ahead? Nothing ever came of it. No calls. No follow-ups. No cops at my door. Just the memory of how close I came to being part of something I didn't understand. Sometimes I still think about that apartment above the dry cleaner. About how easy it is to turn real people into cover stories. About how one knock can change the shape of a night forever.
The weirdest part wasn't the call from the police. It was how calm I felt right before it happened. Like my body knew something was coming and decided to save energy for later. I had just gotten back to my live, shoes kicked off, phone tossed onto the bed, brain already starting to forget the date. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was just another one of those almosts you don't think about again. I unmatched him without drama. No long stare at the screen. No rereading messages. Just a quick swipe and done. I remember thinking how easy it was to erase someone now. How weirdly powerful that felt. I went to get a drink of water, leaned against the counter, and let the silence settle. 5 minutes later my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I usually don't. Something made me pick it up anyway. Maybe curiosity. Maybe habit. Maybe that same background hum that had been following me all day. The voice on the other end was calm and official. They said they were calling because my Tinder messages were now part of an investigation. I laughed at first, like they had the wrong person. That laugh died fast. Apparently my profile had been used as evidence in an infidelity case. Not mine. His. He had been cheating on his pregnant girlfriend. Using my name. My photos. My messages. My account. I sat down on the kitchen floor while they talked. My back slid down the cabinet slowly like in a bad movie. I felt disconnected from my own body, like I was watching this happen to someone else. They asked if I recognized his name. I did. Asked if I had met him. I had. Asked if I had shared my login info. I had not. Asked if I noticed anything strange. Too many things clicked at once. Apparently he had access to my account while we were talking. Maybe before. Maybe during. He had messaged other people pretending to be me. Sent things I never typed. Made plans I never knew about. Screenshots had been taken. Timestamps saved. My words used as proof of betrayal. They told me his girlfriend had gone through his phone and found everything. Multiple profiles. Fake names. But my account was the one he used the most. The one he trusted. The one that looked real. I kept thinking about the date. Replaying it with new eyes. How he insisted on sitting on one side of the table so he could see my phone. How he asked casually if I ever logged out of apps. How he joked about people stealing identities like it was a funny story. He had watched me type. Memorized my phrases. Copied my tone. Maybe even accessed my phone when I went to the bathroom. I remembered leaving it on the table face down. Remembered him glancing at it a little too often. The police said I wasn't in trouble. They said that early and repeated it like a reassurance. It didn't help. Knowing I wasn't the target didn't make me feel safe. It made me feel used. They asked if I could come in later to confirm things. To verify which messages were mine and which weren't. I said yes because saying no felt worse. After the call ended, I sat there on the floor staring at my hands. They felt foreign. Like they had typed things without me knowing. Like my name had walked off and done things on its own. I opened Tinder again even though I had just unmatched him. My account was still there. My picture still smiling back at me. my bio still joking in my voice. It felt wrong. Like a mask someone else had been wearing and forgot to return. I went through my messages carefully. I read everything. Every word. Looking for gaps. Looking for times I wasn't there. There were entire conversations I didn't recognize. Dates scheduled in places I'd never been. Compliments I'd never given. Plans I'd never agreed to. My stomach turned. This wasn't just cheating. This was someone borrowing my identity like it was a coat they could put on and take off. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. Every buzz from my phone made me jump. I kept checking locks. Checking windows. Checking that my live was still mine. I felt exposed in a way I had never felt before. Like my digital self had been touched without permission. The next day I went to the station. The room smelled like old coffee and disinfectant. They sat me down with a stack of printed screenshots. My profile at the top of every page. My face. My name. My words twisted slightly off, like someone mimicking my handwriting. They showed me messages sent while I was at work. Messages sent while I was asleep. Messages sent during the date itself. He had been talking to someone else pretending to be me while sitting across from me. I felt sick. They explained how the girlfriend was pregnant. How she had suspected something for a while. How finding my profile was what finally broke it open. She thought I was the other woman. Thought I knew. Thought I was helping him hide it. I wondered if she hated me. If she imagined me as a villain. If my face had become the symbol of her worst moment. They told me he admitted to it. Said it was easier to cheat as someone else. Said my profile felt safe. Said people trusted it. That part stuck with me. After I left the station, the world felt louder. Brighter. Wrong. I walked home even though it took forever. I needed to feel each step. Needed to feel like my body was still under my control. When I got back to my live, I deleted Tinder for real this time. Not just the app, the whole account. Pictures gone. Bio gone. Matches erased. It felt like scrubbing my name off a wall. A few days later, I got a message request on another platform. No profile picture. No name. Just a short apology. From him. I didn't open it. I blocked it immediately. I also got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was her. The girlfriend. She said she was sorry. Said she didn't know he had gone that far. Said she hoped I was okay. I stared at it for a long time before replying. I told her the truth. That I didn't know. That I was sorry too. We never talked again. Nothing else happened after that. No court stuff. No follow-ups. My involvement ended as suddenly as it started. But the feeling didn't go away. Sometimes I still catch myself typing like someone might be watching. Sometimes I hesitate before sending messages that sound too much like me. Like my voice could be taken again. I unmatched him thinking it would end the story. I didn't know it was just the part where my name stayed behind.